Hello, and welcome to Pivotal Moments, a podcast sharing, exploring, and celebrating stories of change through mindset and wellness and their impact on relationships, both to ourselves and others. We are all agents of change and have the power to pivot at any point, at any time. I'm your host, Melissa Robena, along with my co-host, Siria Gutierrez. On this episode, we recap the last 15 episodes. We talk about our favorite episodes in the bunch, what energized us most, and how much we enjoy the podcasting medium.
Hey, Melissa.
What's up, Siria?
You know what today is?
Recap day.
Woo woo! I love a recap episode.
It's been a minute.
It has been a minute. In fact, our last recap episode was in episode 25, which dropped on January 12th.
And we're recording this April 8th.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. A lot has happened. That's what, 15 episodes? Do the math.
I don't math very well.
I think that's 15 episodes. And so, God, we've gone through so much. We had ours back in February. Our episodes came out. Our Pivotal Moments team episodes came out. We had Relinquishing Control. We had some really great guests. We also kicked off our first ever expert discussion panel, which was fun.
Yes. So those are the different format that you guys may have been hearing of late, with more of a round table. Sorry, I just got like this weird itch right now.
Coke will do that to you.
Sorry.
Can you breathe?
Oh my God. Yeah, so we had this new format with all of these different we're trying stuff out. Like, this is the fun part about podcasting, guys. If any of you are out there thinking about it, I just feel like it is such a fun medium. There are no rules. You make up the rules of what you want. And, you know, at the beginning, we thought we would do a recap episode every 10 episodes. And then it just didn't fit with how we wanted things to release. So, you know what? We did one at 25, and now we're doing one at episode 40. So thank you if you are listening. Super exciting stuff. We have had listeners from additional countries from the last time we talked about it. India, hello.
I know. But speaking of formatting, though, I just remember when we first started, you talk about like basically in podcasts anything goes, and that's true. Mm-hmm. But I remember when we first started, City and I had this form, and it was like, okay, the first third of the interviews are going to be the why of the pivot, then we're going to talk about the how, and then we're going to close up. And it was very structured. And now I feel that as we continue to put out podcast episodes, that we're very comfortable behind the mic with each other and, you know, interviewing guests, which I know for me at first was super unnerving.
I like meeting new people. I'm one of those annoying people who actually likes having conversations on the plane. I won't start them.
Oh, you're one of those.
If somebody engages with me, I won't like shut them down, and I will have a conversation with them. But I won't be the first one to start asking, you know, where are you going? What are you doing?
And we're flying to the same place, Ohio. Yeah. Like, why are you asking me where I'm going?
By the way, thank you for bringing up Ohio. Ohio, we see you. Thank you so much for listening to us. I have one friend in Ohio, so I don't think she's listened to our episodes 5 million times each. So thank you, Ohio, and whoever is helping us out there. Actually, you know what? I think I have 2 friends out there. That's right. I have 2 friends, but between the 2 of them, it still does not account for all of the downloads in Ohio. So thank you so much for that. Same thing with Virginia.
Yeah, so it's just been fun to see the statistics, but let's go back to like the content of the episode. So out of all the episodes that we have recorded since our last recap, which one stands out to you most and why?
Oh, that is a good question. I would say the one that probably sticks out from these last 15 episodes from episode 25 till now, there we go, is probably, I really liked BDE. Episode 29. Yeah, so BDE, just to recap, is a big dick energy. And it was just fun to kind of talk about it. And really what it came down to was confidence and self-worth. So I really enjoyed that. Plus, anytime that I get to relive that story of that meeting and just me, you know, showing up with my dick swinging is probably a bit more fun than I should be having when it comes to like a corporate meeting.
I would say for me, I would probably be episode 32, which was my episode, Endometriosis, Infertility, and Redefining Womanhood. And the reason why that sticks out for me, that episode, I was very vulnerable. And in our private Facebook group, I talked, we did our wine and wine, which if you haven't signed up for our Facebook group, you must. We share behind the scenes footage in there. But I talked about just how, when we recorded the episode, that particular episode, I felt that I powered through it. I thought I did well. I didn't think I was emotional at all. Yet as the release date was approaching, I was finding myself to be very anxious. And we talked, about that in the Facebook group. But what stood out for me about that, besides being vulnerable, is how many people reached out to me through different mediums, whether it's text messaging, email, social media, just saying, that they've gone through something similar. And it wasn't just women. It was men that had, mothers, sisters, or, significant others that had gone through this. And so to me, it just reaffirmed that I'm doing what I'm meant to be doing, which is sharing, creating a space where we can share these stories and basically create the space to talk about things that maybe aren't talked about or swept under the rug.
So was it because it was your story, or was it the reaction?
It was the reaction.
Yeah. I can see that, because like when I was looking through, I'm looking through the spreadsheet with all the things on there. I kind of feel like our episodes as a team, between you, me, and Ron, was just like they're their own little subset. Mm-hmm. And so that's not what I was thinking about, because I do think that was something that was very special that we did, not only for ourselves but also for our audience. That way you guys could get to know us a little bit better. But sharing your story, early on, we knew that was something that was going to happen, that we were going to share your infertility story. And I'm so glad that we did an entire episode dedicated to it, because it was a big story. It's a story that was meant to have its own space. Mm-hmm. So that way you could deal with it as well and process it, but also so that our audience could be there with you and see what that was like. Because that was, I didn't know that story at all. And I'm glad that, the podcast has given us that opportunity to get to know each other on a different level. And those stories, that subset of stories between the three of us, I thought did that. Just another way to bond everybody.
Oh, absolutely. I definitely learned a lot of new things about my teammates here. But it was just a way to be vulnerable, which, is something that I think I've mentioned here on the pod that I've been working on, individually. So it was tough on all aspects. I mean, I'm sharing a story that, I didn't realize how much I had suppressed until this was airing, but it was so well received, and it just gives me the strength to continue sharing and being vulnerable and the importance of creating that space. And you did such a wonderful job, because
hello.
Okay.
I know you're over here trying to have a sincere moment. Sorry, I couldn't do that. But my question though is, from when you had your hysterectomy until your partial hysterectomy until now, you'd started therapy. So do you think that made a difference for you in terms of unpacking that story?
I think it allowed me to be able to share that story, but I don't know if I was actually ready to necessarily deal with it. I think when I had the partial hysterectomy at 27, I wasn't necessarily having the thoughts of like kids and legacy, which I know I spoke a lot about on the episode. But now that I'm older, I'm 35, and, thought of kids have come up a little bit more.
Old maid.
Right? Okay, 37. But, the thought of kids surfaces more. And so it's almost, I've had to kind of face it. Mm-hmm. Whereas before I could, naively kind of just brush it to the side.
So. Right. Okay. No, that makes sense. I can appreciate that.
But I mean, so I know that's a serious note, but like out of everything that we've covered on the show, all the topics that we've covered, all the guests that we've brought on, what is one thing on the show that's energized you most?
What has energized me most? I gotta say, re-listening to these episodes, so we go through the experience, right, of actually recording it either with ourselves or with the interview with one of our guests. The experience of re-listening to that with time in between is just, it's so rewarding for me, because I feel like I get to reinforce messages that I'd already learned, or I'll pick up something new, which I think is something we've talked about before. Like, there's certain episodes we can go back to and be like, oh man, like I didn't catch that gem that time. Now I'm catching it again. And for me, some of these guests that we've had on there, I've texted you privately, been like, oh my God, this person is speaking to my soul right now. And so as much as the conversation is also for our audience to, you know, have you guys learn new people, new points of view, all of those things, there's a lot of learning that's going on, and I get to relearn those things, be like, oh yeah, no, that's a really cool person, like I love that person's path. I'll go back, I'll visit their websites again, or their social media, just kind of keeping tabs on what people are doing. But just that relearning aspect, and just that appreciation of, wow, like we had a really great conversation with this person who, by and large, we're meeting for the first time through this podcast medium. So I think that experience, as we're getting ready to air it to the world, has been really neat, because it's something that, although we've been doing it the whole time, I feel like once we started having more of these interviews, and I'm looking for things to share, for us to clip for social media, I'm looking for those things, but I end up with so much more wisdom coming out of it.
No, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, you do text me like, this speaks to the heart of me. And, you know, I think when we're looking at when it energizes, you and I talk about this, the universe provides. Like, when you're seeking something, I feel that it provides. And an example of that for me is when we were talking about imposter syndrome, and you brought Dr. LaForge on, and it just so happened that I had just had this like aha epiphany moment of where I personally had experienced imposter syndrome. And yet it was like that next week you were able to make this connection, and that person was on the show, and it was just like, wow. And so I feel like there'll be topics, like the topics that we discuss here on the pod are things that you and I might say in passing, and we're like, ooh, that really energizes us. And then either we do a topical episode on it and we learn a lot more about it, or the universe somehow connects us with someone that can speak more to it. And so again, it feeds that growth mindset where we're constantly wanting to learn new things. So I think that that's what excites me most, is it serves as an outlet for continuous growth and continuous learning and exploration.
Mm-hmm. It does all of those things. And for me, I find that the added layer of being able to share and teach, that always gets me excited, because I feel like I've learned this information that frankly is not that hard, but you have to learn it to be able to share it to other people, and who says it matters. And we are people who happen to, you know, just like being nerdy and researching all these different things. Like, I had dinner with a different psychologist this week, and we were talking about neuroscience, and she's telling me how she's getting her PhD in neuropsychology, and I'm over here like, oh my God, that's so fascinating.
Oh my God, do you know David Rock?
Oh my God, can we talk more about neuroscience? Like, please. Like, this is what I do in my spare time. And it's like, oh God. But that additional learning and sharing to teach other people kind of either what we've learned or what we've learned from our own journeys, the mistakes we've made along the way. And we still have so much more content and wisdom to share. So I'm just so excited about the next 40, the next 60, the next 100 episodes. I don't know.
Right.
How long do you want to be with me, Melissa?
I was like, how long can you tolerate me? As long as the wine's flowing, I think we're good.
That's true. I think we would be fine on that one.
But so since this recap episode will be our 40th, bum, 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 like, how has being a podcaster changed you?
Look at her with those hard-hitting questions.
Pow, pow, pow.
Well, dear listeners, if you don't know, last week on April 21st, I dropped an episode or 2 or 3. I don't know yet. you will know. But I dropped our first spin-off for Pivotal Moments called Lawyered with Siria. So I'm excited about that, and we're going to drop the teaser in here if we haven't already. We probably have by now. So that way you guys know, but it has changed me to the point that I really enjoy this medium. I enjoy the collaboration, the creativity, and I want to continue doing it. And I want to do it on whatever excites me. And I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing, but I'm excitable. Like I like so many different things, but I kind of think back about Gary Vee. Gary Vee is not, he's purposeful to not be known for one thing. Like he started in wine, but he talks about wine. He talks about buying sports cards. He talks about garage sailing. He talks about entrepreneur and angel investing. It's like, when you look at it, and he talks about this as well, it's those things aren't connected, but you know what? All of those things are him. And that's the connection. And that's kind of how I feel. It's like, you know what? Yeah, I can unabashedly say I'm a fangirl and have that be an interest. I can talk about the law as an interest. I can talk about coaching, neuroscience, whatever it is, all of those things. And podcasting is a way to share all of that information. What about you?
For what I enjoy, or how being podcaster changed me, I'm sure that none of you are shocked to learn that I didn't like people playing in my sandbox. I don't like sharing my toys. But since the podcast, I really enjoyed the collaborative nature of this. And I also think, and you spoke to this earlier, which is the freedom to play. I mean, there are no rules. If we want to change topics or change structures, go for it. And I like that, because I like structure so much. The fact that, my need to be perfect would sometimes, prevent me from stepping out and trying to be creative. But because there are no rules here, and you are invited and actually encouraged to play, it kind of releases that tension where it's like, okay, I can dip my feet into something new without worrying that I'm going to mess everything up completely. And so I really like that invitation to play.
Play is huge, right? And it is an opportunity to do that, and to break free from that structure. And I mean, we have some rules but they're rules that you set for yourself of what you want, how consistent you want to be with getting things out there. And, at some point, do you want to monetize this? How is this part of your business or supporting your business, those kinds of things. So there are things that people will tell you to do, but at the end of the day, you have to decide what's right for you. And luckily for us, we got a team, so we get to decide together of, hey, you know what, we're not feeling it today, so we're not going to record an episode, but that's okay. We've got a bank of things that we can pull from, and it's not messing with the schedule, because we've both decided, being a weekly podcast is important to us. Nobody told us we had to do that. That was a choice that we decided to do. And we're able to do that. So you get to set your own rules, whatever you want them to be.
Oh, absolutely. And I'm just thinking, from our last time that we recapped till now, there has been one significant change to the actually a couple of changes to the podcast. One, we rolled out the roundtable discussions, which have been so much fun. Nerding it up, and that's not even a word, but I'm making it a word. Another thing that we've done was listeners, you probably noticed we changed the introduction to our podcast. So do you want to talk a little bit about that?
We tweaked it because of the from the prior recap. We realized that there was a theme that was coming through. And so we've changed that. And at this point, every episode, there was one last episode that had the old intro in it, but every episode going forward will have the new intro until we'll see if something else pops up that makes sense with it. But just having that focus on mindset and wellness is really what has come about through really the guest interviews of what we've seen, our own personal experiences. But just, again, that going back to that flexibility and there being no rules, it's like, this makes more sense for us. So how do you like the new intro?
I do like the new intro. Whether it was a topical episode or a guest interview, you're right. The undercurrent was always about mindset and how a shift or a change in that mindset helped that propel them to new heights. And so, in looking back, you and I were just talking about, okay, so maybe we need to look at, okay, first of all, maybe now we're like a mindness and wellness type of podcast. But so we decided, well, how does mindset impact our relationships, both to ourselves and to others? And mindset absolutely impacts almost every aspect of your life, depending on what type of mindset you're carrying with you.
Mm-hmm. No, absolutely. And so just knowing that, hey, we can name this and we can be a little bit more defined with what we're doing. Yeah, that also informs, and I think led to our decision to not necessarily do strictly guest interviews. Those are fun, and we've gotten to know some amazing people throughout the world, but we're going to really just bring in other experts who we can continue to have the conversations with, like we did with Dr. LaForge and some people coming up. Oh my God, we've got some really good episodes coming up, guys. I'm really excited.
Well, this has just been so much fun.
It has been a lot of fun, but I also feel like it's been an example of that growth mindset and of being willing to try other things. Because imagine if we had just said, nope, like we have to keep it to this structure. It has to be the structure. We, everybody already knows our intro. We can't do this. We can't do that. Like how limiting that is. And we've just been able to expand it little by little. We get feedback from our listeners. Yes, we do. We get feedback from you guys. So if you guys want to let us know how we're doing, what you would like to hear, all those kinds of things, we are here for all of it. We love engaging with our audience. We're engaging a lot on a private Facebook group and on our Instagram page. We also have a ton of fun on there. That's the other thing I think that's a lot of fun is our social media content.
Oh, yes. I want to say probably one of my favorite ones has been where there's like the little statue of Siria or figurine that I got her for, it was for Christmas.
It was for Christmas.
And so just having so much fun, just thinking of creative scripts that we could write with that little figurine haunting me while I work here.
Well, the best part about that, again, it goes back to collaboration.
Absolutely.
For me, because you came up with the idea and then like my brain was like, here are all the scripts.
She wrote it in 5 minutes. It would have taken me like 6 weeks to write what you wrote in 5 minutes.
Yeah. And so she's over in the kitchen, like making something. I'm like, I'm just going to record some lines, like no big deal, And then I start doing that and it's like, okay, here you go. And then you can do your part of it.
But I think that's one thing about, it's important to have a co-host that, you want to be similar, but you also want to have different strengths and skill sets because I think we both were very upfront on, these are my strengths and, this is when I feel most energized, and we try to tailor how we work, our workflow based on our individual strengths. And I think that works out really beautifully.
I think so as well. And what I like about it too is it's something I've been able to talk about on Clubhouse, which is, a relatively new app that I have definitely been having a lot of fun on. If you guys are podcast listeners and you are not on Clubhouse, I still want you to listen to the podcast, obviously, and to Lawyered with Siria, obviously. However, Clubhouse is a great audio medium, and just being able to talk about that, like that's something that I have authority in being able to say, yeah, how is it like to work with a co-host, and just being able to answer those questions are like, well, what is it? It's like, what, we have conversations and we have tough conversations sometimes of just making sure that we're aligned with our language, with what the overall goal is, when we break up, like what's that going to look like?
Oh, that was such a difficult conversation.
It was, but it was something that we're able to do. And I feel like if we weren't able to have those conversations, then I don't know that the product or relationship would work as well.
Absolutely. So 40 episodes, cheers to 40 more. And
yes.
What are you most excited about or looking forward to on the pod?
Ooh, I love these new roundtable discussions, and when we host panels, I think that'll be a lot of fun that we're going to be getting into. I'm looking forward to the collaboration that we have going with the Cork Bros.
Oh, yes.
Yes, we have that. Being able to support people. I like that aspect of this community. That's what it feels like. It feels like it's a big community. And I gotta say, with people getting vaccinated and all these different things going on, there are conferences for podcasts. I can't wait to go to a conference wearing a Pivotal Moments t-shirt or something and just being able to geek out and talk to other people, because I find that we're getting a lot of support from other podcasters and from our audience, just reaching out, being like, oh my God, I just listened to your episode and, that was so relatable. Or, I had people at work be like, hey, I saw your story and I didn't know that about you. And I was like, that's cool. Like, and I would just like randomly get a text message of somebody like binging, like, oh my God, I just want to hug you. Like, I can't believe you went through that. I'm like, thank you. But so it's like, it adds that additional humanity to us. So I don't know how I got onto that part, but that's all right. All right, Miss Melissa, trying to get away with not answering the question. I see what you did there.
I can't. Oh, so I have to come up with the questions. I got to answer the questions. Gosh.
Yes.
To do everything.
You got to do everything. I know. What are you looking forward to with the podcast going forward?
I get really excited with the content we're putting out. Now, I know this might be a little biased. I think that the content that we put out for our podcast, like the actual episodes, are really good. But I also really enjoy, you mentioned it earlier, like the behind the scenes footage, the stupid skits that we come up with. I love playing around with like the video editing, trying to figure out new ways to laugh, because we do talk about some serious topics here on the pod. So just wanting to show both of our sides, the serious side, but also the playful side, the nerdy side, all of it. So when I have the opportunity to do that, I really enjoy that. So I think when I'm looking forward at what I'm most excited about or looking forward to is continue to explore and share that fun side of ourselves, because we have fun creating it. And then this is funny, but like, how often will you come and be like, oh my God, look at this video I just did of us. Like, how stupid do we sound right now? And I'll watch it. And even now, just before we recorded, you played a video that I think from like episode 4 or something like that. And it still makes me laugh, but I think that it's good to show that side of us.
Mm-hmm. Well, that, and when we're looking back at this, at the compound in Spain, that one of our friends is going to buy for her retirement and let us all live on, we'll be able to look back at all of the footage that we've created and be like, oh my God, we were so stupid, but it was worth it, as we sit there with our Spanish cava and, just sip, sip, sip. That's it for this episode. We want to hear from you. What are you most looking forward to in this podcast? Let us know in our private Facebook group, Pivotal Moments HQ. We want to thank our producer and music director, Ron Johnson. This has been an Astronomicus DMR production. Thank you for listening, and remember, it's never too late and you're right on time.